So, 2023 is almost over, and I think it's time to look at how far our system of choice has come. Because it was a year full of progress and improvements, and it was a year which paved the way for an even better 2024. Although, for now, we're still in the middle of the road situation, where everything is aligning, but nothing is completely there yet. Now, personally, I published more than 120 videos, plus about 50 episodes of the Linux and open source news podcast, and about the same number of the Patroncast, but who cares? What matters is the sort of weird situation we're stuck in at the end of 2023. So buckle up, we're gonna look at everything that has progressed during the year, what we can look forward to in 2024, and the major challenges and problems we'll still have to face. Plus, this segue to our awesome sponsor. This video is sponsored by ProtonVPN. You probably already know about Proton Mail, one of the most secure and private email services out there, but they also have their VPN service, which is equally as secure and private. It's also based in Switzerland, and it doesn't log any activity, and it doesn't share any data with third parties. Of course, it is fully encrypted, so you can use it from any public Wi-Fi or at home to either change your location or just stay anonymous online. On top of that, ProtonVPN uses a 10 gigs per second network plus a suite of VPN accelerators, so even when you're using it, your browsing stays really fast. ProtonVPN supports all your devices, PC or mobile, and they can even run on routers. And they've just completely rebuilt their Linux desktop client for it as well, complete with advanced features like a DNS filter to block ads and trackers, a kill switch to stop your internet connection if the VPN connection drops so your IP is never exposed, plus Secure Core, which provides a double VPN to provide a server located in a country where strong privacy laws apply. I don't usually recommend VPN services, but ProtonVPN is my pick of choice. And you can use it for free by clicking the link in the description below, or they also have paid plans for more features and even more security. So yeah, click the link in the description to get started with ProtonVPN. So first, we've had a lot of efforts focused on trying to unify our various desktops and make them work better together. Linux always had a problem of standards. Things didn't always work together well. Preferences were not followed between desktops and apps, and applications were packaged in tons of different formats, with big discrepancies in terms of what features they actually support. And I'll be blunt, things are still a mess. Our desktops can still feel very disjointed at times, especially when you mix and match GNOME and KDE applications. Things are improving, but they're still a mess. Now, unified theming between desktops is pretty much abandoned as a thing that should be pursued. GNOME moved towards libadwaita, and almost no distro forces another theme onto every app you install that uses libadwaita. Even Fedora decided not to theme cute apps inside of GNOME anymore. But we're also seeing an accent color standard emerge, meaning that you'll be able to set an accent color in your desktop and have apps follow that setting, no matter the toolkit it uses. Plasma already implements it, Elementary OS, Budgie, Cinnamon, and even the upcoming Cosmic Desktop all follow it. GNOME has plenty of merge requests open to implement it as well, although it's not confirmed yet. And it might seem like a small thing, but having a preference you set at your desktop or OS level and that is followed by every single app in terms of the accent color that it uses does a lot to unify and bring together every app that you use. Now add that to the dark mode preference that is now followed by most desktops and apps, and we're seeing a push for more consistency across desktops. And that's also complemented by the work being done on portals. Portals are these little tidbits of software that let sandboxed apps like flatpaks and snaps interact with your system in a secure way, without needing you to fiddle too much with permissions. And when they're implemented by desktops and apps, they give you even more standardization and better integration. For example, if it uses the File Chooser portal, an app designed for a specific desktop or toolkit, or an app that's cross-platform, can display the right file picker for your chosen desktop, instead of forcing the GNOME one or the KDE one. With portals for settings, screenshots, remote desktops, printing, sending email, creating shortcuts, or transferring files, there's now a solid abstraction layer between your desktop and the apps it runs. which means that as more and more apps and desktops use these portals, you'll see the correct interface all the time, the correct settings panel open, it will be better standardized and everything will work as it's supposed to, and so the desktop will feel more cohesive. But for now, we are not there yet. Things are progressing and they're almost done, but a lot of smaller desktops, apart from GNOME and KDE basically, do not follow all of these, and a lot of apps also haven't implemented them either. So we're getting there, but at the end of 2023, it's still kind of messy. Now, packaging formats. At the end of 2023, they're in a bad state. Not in terms of features, because that's moving forwards pretty nicely, but in terms of having one clear winner or option. Linux packaging has never been messier. Not only do we still have all the packaging formats of old, like RPM, Deb, and all the others, but we also now have flatpak, app images, and snaps, and you can add Nix packages and a few other on top of that. And this situation is really starting to drag. These recent packaging formats, flatpak, snaps, and app images, were supposed to unify things and make it easier for users and for developers. But in the end, they're only easier for certain developers, and for users, they added a lot of confusion, with missing features in certain versions of the apps and certain versions working better than others. It's a mess. As neither flatpak nor snap are fully ready for 100% of applications. Some stuff simply cannot be packaged using these, and they still have drawbacks that some users do not want to deal with, like storage space or missing features. And we're seeing some solid progress on FlatHub as a platform, on Flatpak as a format, and even on Ubuntu snaps with plenty of performance improvements and new features being added. There's still a lot of missing stuff, like native messaging that would let many password managers work with flatpaks and snap versions of web browsers. So we're not ready to transition most Linux users to one single packaging format, which also means that app developers cannot just say, hey, you know what, we want to support Linux, we're gonna use this because that's what everyone uses, and so our packaging problems are still not solved in 2023. Now, the display situation is much better though. X11 is now clearly abandonware. Red Hat won't be using it for Rails 10, Fedora is dropping it for the next version with KDE, and maybe for GNOME as well. Plasma recommends using Wayland instead, starting with Plasma 6, and GNOME has merge requests to start removing support for X11. Now, importantly, X11 still works for a lot of people that still need it for a specific use case, but there's a clear signal that Wayland is where we're going. And work on that has been stellar in 2023. It got support for remote desktops, screen sharing with X-Wayland apps was pretty much fixed with X-Wayland Video Bridge, and all major desktops improved their Wayland sessions by leaps and bounds. Although we will still need to wait for 2024 for a really good experience with Plasma 6. Mostly all desktops now have plans for Wayland, including LXQt, Cinnamon, and XFCE. Cosmic will be Wayland only, Elementary OS has an experimental session already, and Budgie will move to Wayland for Budgie 11, so everyone is in agreement. Now, there still remained a few issues with Wayland, notably for NVIDIA users. The proprietary NVIDIA drivers have made enormous progress, especially with the very latest version, fixing most of the remaining annoyances with NVIDIA and Wayland, but it's still not 100% yet. Now, added to that, work on supporting HDR has moved by leaps and bounds, and we'll see a fully working implementation in 2024, with games already being able to run using HDR on SteamOS and on KDE if you use the very latest beta drivers and Plasma. Fractional scaling is now properly implemented on Wayland as well, meaning we can finally do non-blurry scaling with different scaling per monitor and different refresh rates per monitor as well. Now, on the display side of things, everything has finally coalesced with a single vision and a single goal moving forwards, and it's really, really solid at the end of 2023. The last few kinks and problems will be ironed out at the beginning of 2024, so all good on that front. As per drivers, we've seen some solid progress as well. AMD now has solid drivers on launch day for their new GPUs. Intel has finished their new Xe driver that's now ready to be merged in the Linux kernel. Arc GPUs are now well supported, and NVIDIA drivers have progressed immensely in terms of Wayland support, screen tearing, and general Linux support. It is not a perfect experience if you don't have an RTX card though, as Nvidia unfortunately seems to have pretty much abandoned the GTX line of GPUs with their Linux drivers. We're also seeing very strong efforts for open source Nvidia drivers, with the Nouveau drivers finally being able to deliver decent performance thanks to supporting the GSP firmware and being able to change the GPU clock speed on recent Nvidia GPUs. Plus, the NVK Vulkan drivers are being added to Mesa and they're fully Vulkan 1.0 compliant. Nvidia even dropped some open source code for their own drivers, although this is far from being usable right now. In terms of graphic drivers, we're in a really good place in 2023. Probably the best we've ever been on Linux. And with the open source Nvidia stack, we'll probably see a first fully integrated version in 2024, although performance will probably not be good enough, but I would expect 2025 to be the year where some distros start not offering the proprietary Nvidia drivers and just rely on the open source stack. As per firmware, the Linux Firmware Vendor System, or LVFS, has also seen broad adoption, letting you apply firmware updates on the fly and easily. This already supplied 100 million firmware updates, and Google is even pushing manufacturers to support that for their own Linux-based Chrome OS. And we still have some driver issues, mostly for fingerprint readers because those are not well supported on Linux, and some USB, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi dongles as well. But generally, the hardware support on Linux nowadays is really good. Probably the best it's ever been. It's very rare to end up on a piece of hardware that doesn't support Linux at all. Now, gaming has been incredible in 2023. Not only did Linux pass macOS's market share for Steam, but we've seen great support for the Steam Deck, which in turn means great support for Linux. And sure, it's all driven by Proton and Wine, it's not native Linux ports, but my opinion is that it doesn't matter. If you can click install and then play and run the game with a performance on the level that you'd expect, things are good. The Steam Deck has been so popular that it kickstarted a full category of handhelds, and the Steam Deck is arguably the best and most successful of them right now, with the most controller-friendly interface compared to Windows-based handhelds. It even got a sequel in the form of the OLED Steam Deck. Non-Steam gaming has also progressed immensely, with Heroic becoming a really fantastic launcher for GOG and Epic games, really plug and play, and Lutris is still handling most of the rest pretty well. And we gain support for ray tracing, for HDR, for DLSS, for FSR, meaning that we can play with all the nice tools that everyone else has access to. We still have the major issue of some anti-cheat not working, or certain game developers not wanting to enable anti-cheat support for Linux or the Steam Deck, but I'm pretty sure that as we're seeing these games slowly drop off in popularity and new games coming that do tend to support Linux and the Steam Deck, this problem will solve itself. Now, for app support, I'd say we haven't seen many improvements in 2023. Now, sure, our own open source apps have progressed this year, but the usual suspects are still missing that would let a lot more people move to Linux. Still no Microsoft Office, still no Adobe apps, a lot of content creation software or CAD software are still missing, with no indication that it will change. We are seeing a push from Adobe to bring at least Photoshop to the web, which might mean Linux will get at least some form of that in the future, but that's not much. We've seen Studio One come to Linux, a popular digital audio workstation, but that's about it. I'd say the only way we can improve this is by gaining market share on the desktop. Reaching 5 to 10% would probably be enough to get good support from many professional apps, but we are far from that. And we would also have to solve our Wayland migration because we need one single system for apps to support. We need to solve all our little driver problems because if NVIDIA or OpenCL or CUDA aren't well supported, that's also a problem for certain professional apps. And we would also need to solve our packaging problems because with tens of thousands of ways to package an app for many distros, developers just don't want to expend the time. So I'm not seeing this progress much further in 2024 either. So the Linux desktop is in a weird place at the end of 2023. We finally know where we want to go, which is Wayland and probably sandbox apps and portals, but while the transition to Wayland and all the drivers is pretty much on the rails and it's really almost done for all major desktops, all the packaging stuff, the portal stuff, the sandboxing stuff, it's not catching up as fast or as well as it should. Which means that there's still one big missing piece, which is how do you distribute an app on Linux? And at the end of 2023, we still have not solved that problem. And there are some other challenges coming as well. The big one I can see is AI integration in the desktop and the apps. It's a move Microsoft is making with Windows 12. They're adding AI-powered search and automations throughout the desktop. This is only possible because, first, Microsoft has tons of data on their users, because Windows is basically spyware, and second, because they have a big infrastructure that lets them combine cloud-powered AI and locally run AI. Now, whether we should chase that trend or not, that's for you to decide. But what's for certain is that after 4, 5 or 6 years where users have context-sensitive search that lets them find any file, whether they remember the name, the location, who sent it, or the app, doesn't matter, they can find it if they have the right apps opening at the right time, or one-click button that automates 30 or 40 minutes of work thanks to AI, then they're never going back to apps and OSs that don't have that. Now, we'll have to see if AI is truly a transformative technology or not. After all, people were just as excited with AI assistants, and from what I can see, no one really cares about those anymore, and no one really uses them for anything else than a reminder or a timer. In any case, the Linux desktop has progressed a lot in 2023, but 2024 looks like it will be the year when things really come together. Not the year of the Linux desktop, because that's nonsense, but at least the year where there's a unified vision, a coherence, a standardization of things, maybe not in every area, but at least offering a very solid, stable experience for most users with a common path for most distros. We will still have a lot of work to do, but at least we'll be in a really good place to get that work done. Just like our sponsor is a really good place to get yourself a computer to run Linux on. It's Tuxedo. They make computers that run Linux out of the box. They support a few popular choices, but you can just install your own distro and call it a day as well. They have a big range of devices. It should fit basically every price point and every need. You can customize the components, you can choose the amount of RAM, of SSD, the CPU you want to put in there, sometimes even the resolution of the display. You can open the laptops, you can repair them and upgrade them, and basically there's something for everyone in there. You can even have your own custom keyboard layout or your own logo laser etched on your device. And also, they do contribute to Linux's development, because when they encounter a problem with one of their computers, they actually submit patches upstream to fix these problems for everyone. So if you need a new computer and you want to run Linux on it, just click the link in the description below and get yourself a device from Tuxedo. They're really, really solid. It's all I use these days to run this channel and to game. My SteamOS console is a Tuxedo PC. So, thanks everyone for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't hesitate to like, to subscribe, to turn on notifications, or to write a comment. And if you didn't like the video, well, you can always dislike it and tell me why in the comments as well. And if you really enjoy the channel and you want to help me make more of these videos and keep doing that as a day job, there are plenty of links in the description as well for LibraPay, PayPal, Patreon, YouTube memberships. You know how this works. So, thanks for watching, and I guess you'll see me in the next one. Bye!